Okay, good. So, good morning or good afternoon, based on wherever you are. My name is Chihao Huang from the Partner Solution Adoption Team. So, welcome to this session. Today's session is about the RISE with SAP methodology, clean core operation. So, in previous session, we've already discussed the different dimensions of the clean core. Namely, we have integration, extensibility, data, process, and today we come to the last dimension, which is operation. And we have one colleague, Maurice, to deliver this session and also answer any questions that you have in this regard. Please move to the next slide. So at the beginning, I would like to do a little bit housekeeping. Please stay muted during the session. And in case you have any questions, please put that into the Q&A box and we will monitor it and answer at the end of this session. And in case you need any further assistance regarding this clean core operation, so you can find the contact details in the end, and we will do the follow-up to help you solve your questions. Also, the recordings and the slides will be made available, but there, please be patient because we need maybe 1 or 2 business days to prepare everything and make that available to you. And in the end, if you have any technical issues, please put that into the chat and I will be there to support you. Without further ado, I would hand over to Maurice to start the topic. Maurice, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. So, hi everyone, my name is Maurice Martin. So I'm a Chief Cloud Architect within the Premium Hub Center of Expertise. So we primarily work with premium engagement customers in terms of adopting SAP solutions. And I work mostly in the area of application lifecycle management, DevOps, and end-to-end customer operations, whether it's from a people, a process, or a tool perspective. So I work very closely with, on the premium engagement side, with our portfolio owners to ensure that from that aspect around operations, our content is up to date and is in alignment with the future needs of our SAP organizations, which is why I'm here to support the RISE methodology, as that's a big component of what we're doing as well, and the clean core operation space for our partners. So in terms of the agenda, I'm going to do a very brief recap and introduction to the RISE methodology, just to kind of keep everyone familiar with the concepts and the topics we're talking about, in case some of you haven't seen them before. But again, there will be nothing new here that you haven't seen or heard. Then we'll go in a little bit about the background to why clean core is important and the principles that we follow for operations, and then move into a deeper dive of the the third chapter for the clean core operations. So the methodology as it pertains to the RISE with SAP methodology. So the quality gates, what's involved in those, and the different components and the tool chain that's involved as a cross clean core function, and how operations is a cross topic. And then finally, spend a couple of minutes just to show you where you can get some further information on clean core operations and where it's involved in the SAP Activate methodology, as that's a core component of delivering our SAP solutions. So in terms of the introduction, so again, you'll have seen this before, right? So the key objectives of the RISE with SAP methodology is to ensure that it's an embedded part of delivery to all RISE customers. So we want to make sure that all our customers leverage the standard delivery methodologies. We want to simplify and standardize the onboarding process to ensure the customer experience is consistent and improve to ensure adoption. We want to establish measurable clean core relevant Q gates and checklists. So I'll cover the key topics that are covered in terms of the Q gates for the clean core operations space later. We want to ensure a consistent, scalable platform to support end-to-end RISE clean core adherence. So this is really where operations comes to the fore, to ensure that you have this scalable platform. Obviously, support customers with relevant service offerings from our service portfolio, and support ecosystem competency and necessary validations, which this is part and parcel of in terms of partner enablement. So what is clean core? Again, it's an important topic to ensure its overall purpose is our overall description is a system or landscape of systems that's as close to standard as possible, and while running cloud compliant extensions and integrations. Allows easy adaptation of your system and landscape depending on your business requirements, and allows you to adopt new capabilities in a faster and more agile way. And one of the core elements is that a strong embedded governance is required for each technical dimension of clean core. What we talk about here in terms of business processes, keeping the competitiveness while reducing complexity, fit to standard, decoupling extensions from standard, making sure that you follow this fit to standard approach, control the data according to the latest standards, keeping the landscape reliable and flexible with best-in-class integrations, and keeping the operations effective and efficient. Ultimately, this is not really entirely new to you as our partners or us within SAP in terms of the concept, but there is a greater importance to it, and a greater weight lent to it now, especially when we want to ensure that customers can continuously adopt new innovations coming from SAP. And this is a core component of the RISE methodology, is to ensure that customers stay up to the latest versions, which wasn't always the case in the past. Okay. In terms of principles for operations, so we often see that there's a kind of a misconception around operations and what involvement operations has in RISE. So like, this is a typical question we see from customers, right? I'm on the RISE journey with Clean Core. Why do we need to think about operations? So what's the purpose? So first and foremost, RISE is a new operating model. So we need to think about operations in the context of that, in terms of how significant the change is to the people in your organization, both partners and customers organizations, the processes that will be used. So there's going to be a change to processes, that elements will now be taken care of SAP that weren't before. There will be different roles and processes followed by partners and customers, and the tooling as well, right? So there's different tools involved. Some are similar, but in general, the tools are changing for the most part, as we see with most customers. Operations as an overall paradigm is not outsourced operations completely, right? So RISE, certainly, right, technically outsources certain components of what's done in the operations of an SAP landscape with our customers. But the idea is to allow you and partners, you being the customer, customers and partners, to focus on providing and understanding the business value. So again, bringing you further up the value chain. The focus switches from this keeping the lights on approach to providing continuous agile innovation at scale, right? So becoming a real business partner and business innovation enabler. Third thing, operations in the context of Clean Core doesn't start at go live, right? It starts right at the beginning of the program or project. So this is also often thought that operations only considers monitoring, right? So it's not the case. So it's a cross topic to enable Clean Core, and needs to be thought of from the start, covering project governance, agile methodology, organization setup, tooling, and more. It is a cross-team initiative, so it requires significant partnership. Again, when we talk about there's a new operating model, it's not just outsourced operations. It requires a significant partnership between RISE. So RISE, whether it's the ECS team, the Enterprise Cloud Services team, or the Cloud Application Services that our customers may consume. The partners, so system integrators, AMS providers, right? So there's going to be changes there, but there needs to be a strong partnership between all elements. And most significantly, the customer, who is the ultimate owner of how the business runs and how they should support the business. And overall, operations as a construct embeds the required governance. So we talked a little bit earlier about strong governance is required. So Clean Core's overall intent is to allow for continuous innovation adoption. The governance, whether it's organizationally, process-wise, best practices, or tooling, is fully embedded within this operations concept. So again, should be familiar with this slide about the background to why we see that our customers' challenge is how we're enabling our customers to embark on this digital transformation. So one of the key challenges is this staying competitive and relevant, right? So customers want to continuously innovate, stay competitive within their ecosystem and stay relevant within their ecosystem, because there is a massive change in the different organizations, different companies that are at the top end of the game. So in terms of digital transformation, they need to embed business agility, IT flexibility, and avail of modular innovation, which is decoupled from the core. And Rise with SAP and modular innovation is the way that SAP provide, and it is the way to achieve this in a future-proof approach. And ultimately, customers require a stable core for business-critical processes with the ability to innovate at the edge. So, what changes in the context of IT and business transformation? So, the SAP vision is to bring out the best in every business. And how is this done? Ultimately, business transformation is enabled by software and IT. So every business is a digital business. On the business transformation side of things, there is a need to differentiate at scale with resilience. So there's a lot of external factors that come to play in business, whether it's macroeconomic effects or global instability, political instability. There needs to be an ability to embed resilience within the operations of a business and differentiate from other competitors. What we see is customers, right, for something that's a very standard back-end process, customers need to standardize the core. If it's not providing business value, it's not a key differentiator for business. So key differentiators are where you innovate at the edge, but standardize these core processes that aren't providing extra business value or extra business innovation. They need to reduce the opportunity cost of slower feature delivery. So if it takes a long time to bring products or bring new markets due to technical considerations and not being technically ready for it, this allows competitors to gain a foothold in the market. So there's an opportunity cost with not being able to deliver innovation quickly. Our customers need to manage transformations in parallel to ongoing micro innovations. So while S4 transformations, RISE transformations take a certain amount of time, the world doesn't stop while that happens. So even on the existing legacy landscapes, there needs to be micro innovations, and you need to be ready for this. Our customers need to leverage the data that's at their disposal, and there's a massive amount of more data that's created and generated and available to our customers. But in order to properly leverage that data with AI, you need to ensure that data is kept consistent and is kept as a data lake and not a data swamp. And one other thing that's kind of very often forgotten about is your users, right? And people within the business. we need to manage change fatigue. Everything is changing at a rapid pace, so we need to ease that and make it simpler for the end users to consume all of these new things that are coming at them. On the other side of it, right, the other side of the coin, the digital delivery side. So customers' digital delivery teams still need to provide and manage state-of-the-art technology, so ensure there's TCO transparency, give their consumers what they need, manage these hybrid environments, right? So there's still a certain amount of this routine work to do. But enabling that digital change is also a key factor. So support these changing business models, embed agile to ensure agile innovation at scale, become a business enabler and innovation driver rather than a cost center. Right? This is something that our customers' organizations need to do. And this is very typically supported by partners, right? In terms of giving the best practices and SAP in the same vein, in terms of how to achieve this. And where these meet is through business, process, and product transparency, so that the business can see what the digital delivery team are delivering, when, why, and what. So with transitioning to the cloud, right? So the existing, or I suppose, well-known operating model is customers run on-premise or hyperscaler. Some of the activities may be taken over by partners or the customer's own in-house teams. But what this moves to is more these, with Rise with SAP, there's a lot of activities that are kind of the more routine topics, and technical topics are taken over by SAP. And customer partners and customer teams can focus on higher value tasks, right? Focusing on this future look at how to transform, how to innovate, how to provide business application support, how to ensure security across all of the landscape that you're managing, how to provide a service to your business, how to triage any issues or any requirements that come in, and bring those requirements and provide your business with the capabilities they need based on SAP innovations that are brought. They need to perform application monitoring. So look at the actual throughput of the business, what's happening within the business, and give feedback to the business about whether they're consuming things to their full potential or not, where they may make increases in efficiencies. Still, also, this is something that's very often forgotten, testing and training, right? This is still a key aspect of customer and partners' competency and responsibility, right? So even though Rise with SAP maybe could even go as far as executing automation tests for our customers, the ownership of the testing still belongs with the customer, right? So they need to explain what to test and when to test. And then obviously develop, extend, and integrate. So again, these innovations at the edge need to be managed on the customer side. So establish effective and efficient operations. So some of the main aspects, right, around operations is keeping the core clean is not a one-time activity. It's something that not only happens within the context of a project or a program, but is a continuous embedded practice. And it has to be a service of the entire SAP customer organization to the business. Monitoring of all areas relevant to clean core indicators is extremely important. So it can often be thought to we'll look at custom code. That's the only thing I care about and to keep the core clean. That's not the fact. Monitoring of KPIs across all of the dimensions is extremely important, because clean core is a multi-dimensional paradigm, and it's not only about custom code. Establish agile principles with DevOps to enable collaboration. Again, foundation of SAP's best practice implementation is Activate. It's based on agile methodologies. And then extended that to DevOps in terms of the development, operations, and business collaboration. is what we recommend to enable collaboration. Leverage SAP best practice tools and processes from individual expert tools to central operations platforms. So SAP provide tooling and capabilities to implement and run our SAP landscapes based on the best practices we've established over multiple years of working with SAP customers. We need to establish a release management approach aligned with business needs. So again, this is about bringing the transparency to what's coming in each release, how that aligns with the business processes that are implemented, and how this is aligned with the enterprise architecture transformation roadmap, so that your business understand the context of what's coming and can help you with prioritizing that transformation runway. And ultimately is establish SAP as an agile business platform, to ensure that businesses can leverage SAP to the fullness of its capability, with that eye of the SAP vision to bring out the best in every business. So moving on to the methodology. So you'll have seen this before as well, right? The foundation, the Rise with SAP methodology, and this foundation for clean core adherence. So we have the adoption framework, so between the customer journeys and the activity maps. We have SAP Activate for Rise with SAP, so the implementation methodology, and the quality gates. I think it probably quality gates and the SAP tools and solutions is kind of something we're going to concentrate a little bit more on in the next number of slides. So yeah, of course, if you have any questions on this, let me know. We can come back to it. But given that there's full sessions on it, I won't spend much longer in this topic. So quality gates. So moving to SAP for HANA in the conversion scenario. Honestly, conversion greenfield it's very similar in terms of the key focus areas we're talking about. Just the context of some of the questions changes. So at the end of prepare, we have our first quality gate. And in this quality gate, at the end of prepare, the key focus areas we're looking at is tool chain establishment. So this doesn't mean that you have all of the tools that you'll ever need set up at this point. It's more, we at least have a roadmap for tooling. We have a planned architecture for support tooling, and we've began the implementation at least to start the early phases of a project. So at this point, you don't need to have all of your monitoring in place, right? As may be clear, but you at least need to have tooling to support the explore phase, so the fit to standard workshops. We expect to have a clear plan for governance, whether it's the solution standardization board and the overall enterprise architecture practice, and what kind of organization and future organization. There has to be a certain element of thought gone into that as well. We expect you to have your team enabled on Agile and SAP Activate and project methodology practices, so that your teams understand how to work in this context. Because it's not always true that everyone knows what Agile is, everyone knows what Activate is, and partner methodologies are quite similar. But it's enabling the people who are working in the project to understand how the project is going to be managed and handled. And we also expect that there's technical, especially in this conversion scenario, that there's technical and functional transparency on the as-is solution. So whether it's an understanding of the data, so what kind of master data is in your existing landscape, what kind of, I suppose, outdated data that should be archived before the conversion, what the data footprint ultimately is, what is the custom code situation, what's the usage of the custom code in your existing landscape, what kind of challenges do you have in the performance of your existing business processes, what do those processes look like in comparisons to what SAP consider are best practice process approach. So these are some of the things that we would expect. Maybe some of the things around the technical health of the solution might be interesting as well, but ultimately it's having this transparency on the as-is solution. So once this quality gate passes and we go through our explore, we do our process and solution design, we look at the quality gate too. So at this point, right, we need to have a good release plan. So again, the release planning will cover maybe multiple rollouts, as the case may be, or single rollouts, but there needs to be a backlog prioritization. There needs to be a plan for the waves and sprints coming, and there needs to be a planned release of when at least a minimum viable product will be available for your customers' teams. And again, transparency on this is important to bring the business along with you, that they understand what's happening. Also, when you require their input. We expect that the test strategy is complete so that you know and have a plan for how you're going to execute testing within Realize. So agile testing, shift left for testing, moving to more test-driven development approaches, and how you're going to plan for automation testing and things like performance testing, for instance, and data integrity testing. KT planning. So we need to have a plan for these processes. How are we going to plan the KT as an ongoing initiative? So part of the agile methodology is early feedback. So your business users should get early feedback in terms of the initial version of KT, but there's also planning for how you're going to do more extensive rollout of training and enablement. The solution standardization board should be established and should be running so that when developments are created, or if there's during the course of the project, there's a need to maybe develop something that's out of standard, then this solution standardization board should provide the governance around it. We also expect that there's a certain element of architecture planning, whether completed technical architecture and infrastructure, but also an architecture transition plan. So there may be multiple phases in the program. So what does the architecture look like at each phase? A certain element of this should have been done earlier on, but there will be revisions to that as the Explorer continues. And yeah, we expect that there's a security strategy in place so that you're not thinking about strategy at the end of the project or security at the end of the project, but it's inbuilt to your overall development approach. Then we move to the deploy phase, where we look at we expect right before we go to run that we have test automation in place. So for post go live, regression, and we have preparation done to allow for a change impact analysis in the post go live situation. Also, we expect that there would have been some level of automation done in terms of iterative sprints, so that you can, if there's any changes to previously developed functionalities, you can use automation to check those. We expect that there's a transition to operations plan in place, so that you understand how to run and operate the new solution, and especially what the impacts are based on this new RISE operating model, who does what. The customer center of expertise, we expect there's a plan for the support organization for the SAP landscape. So how do they interact? How does that organization interact between business and IT? How do you support the running solution? What kind of roles, what kind of people we expect within that? We look towards having a plan for the operations control center to implement the best-in-class event management process and approach to ensure the ongoing health of your system, and whether this is supported by SAP in terms of cloud application services. There would typically be a combination of that, partners and customers involved in this approach. And this depends on the context of the different alerts and monitoring objects that you create when you're doing your monitoring planning and setup. So again, we expect that the infrastructure and the tooling is is set for post-go-live monitoring. And we expect that you've implemented all the security checks, the security controls in accordance with the SAP Secure Operations Map, and you do things like planning for the patch days, etc. And then once we move into the run phase, we need to look at ensuring that this business and IT governance is in place and this partnership is in place to allow for continuous innovation post go live. We look whether it's business process management, whether it's organization, whether it's requirement tracking, etc. We need to make sure there's tool enablement across all of the involved teams, whether it's partner, customer, etc., for run operations, for this monitoring space and event management. Even ticketing systems, etc., need to be integrated. We expect that there's KT executed for the different people involved in terms of what needs to be done in their context. So, right, obviously something like running the technical infrastructure will be taken care of by SAP, but you still need KT on how the business runs, right? So if there's a problem in a business process, how do I respond to that, to technical exceptions? Again, typically, right, the program team goes away, goes to do different things, but should be continuous innovation and adoption project teams that are continue working. So enablement for those teams is extremely important. Typically requires good documentation to actually understand what's going on so that they can actually easily adopt new processes and understand the impact of what they're doing. Again, we look at agile implementation tooling. So again, looking at the tooling that was set up with the program should be ready to be consumed on an ongoing basis. And again, continuously review against the SAP Secure Operations Map. So that's from a quality gate point of view. In terms of tools and methodology, how we build this up is looking at the base. SAP provide technical enablement through our software logistics tools, BTP, Clean Core dashboards, Early Auto Alerts, SAP for Me, and others, right? There's several other areas, but these are some of the core technical aspects that are provided to our customers. Building on top of this, we have SAP Application Lifecycle Management tools. So this is a combination of Cloud ALM, Solution Manager, Focus Run, and Tricentis for test automation, performance testing, data integrity testing, and change impact analysis tools. The next level is process transformation and enterprise architecture. So this is primarily from a tool perspective, is managed through SAP Signavio and SAP LeanIX. And on top of all of these things, we have SAP best practices, accelerators, and reference architecture. So this is primarily SAP Activate, the Business Accelerator Hub, and the RISE Adoption Framework. So these are kind of some of the core accelerators. There's obviously myriads of others that we have to support you as well, between training content, the Discovery Center, Learning Hub, like these partner enablements pages, value maps, etc. But I suppose these are some of the kind of core areas that are linked. And overall, the idea is to allow you master complexity, accelerate adoption. This is kind of one of the key topics, increase efficiencies and strengthen resiliency. So this is kind of one of the core areas behind it. So in terms of tool and methodology, SAP do have a vision to manage the business transformation with an integrated approach, methodology, data model, and tool set. So at the first point is aligning strategy to execution. So looking from the process perspective, need to discover the discover what processes are in scope. We need to analyze the as-is situation, and we need to perform our process design based on the information about how the business runs and how the business intends to run in the future. From this process design perspective, we hand over to the application and solution design. So from here, we manage the implementation and manage the operations and monitor how the solution is performing, to then, again, move back based on the insights we get from that, move back into this process discovery phase again. And at the core of this are people and data, the data that's developed and consumed. And overall, this methodology, best practices for automation and integration, are powered by Business AI. So this allows you fast time to insights on your landscape, to move to fast time to adapting new changes. So this is one core element of our vision. In terms of the methodology for transformation, from the perspective of tooling, our intent is to have an integrated tool chain that helps you define your business strategy, your business and solution architecture with LeanIX. Look at your as-is processes and design your processes with Signavio. Move into supporting the implementation, your fit to standard workshops to define the 2B processes, align them, link them to the requirements, manage your projects, perform the customizing and development, test what you've developed, and also enable people with Enable Now. So this is the solution implementation. So it's the right-hand side of that infinity loop we had in the previous slide. From here, we need to manage the go live and operate the solution. And again, we go live with our first iteration, and there will be many iterations of this same cycle, depending on your rollout strategy, your adoption of new innovations. This will need to continue. In terms of process analysis, we should be continuously monitoring and analyzing the as-is execution and alignment versus our best practice expectation. So from this integration perspective, a little bit here about what it currently looks like and what's maybe some of the things that are coming soon, coming later. So the intent is to have, across all of these different phases, right, to have SAP Signavio, right, and LeanIX, leading with discovering the application landscape and discovering the process landscape, through leveraging the data that comes from Cloud ALM to get your solution landscape. So we get the solution landscape because Cloud ALM has a link to all your managed system landscape. This feeds into LeanIX in terms of the application landscape, and these capabilities are linked then to the process landscape, which is managed in Signavio. Again, within Signavio, we look for the business value. LeanIX, we build our transformation roadmap, and Cloud ALM, we set up our projects, our project portfolio. From a technical perspective, in Cloud ALM, we look at the readiness check. We do our application mapping and scoping within LeanIX, and then we link the capabilities view in LeanIX to the process view in Signavio, so that you have this combined view from an architecture perspective to a process perspective. Again, with the fit to standard, we start with the best practice processes. We start with the reference architecture, and we scope the best practice processes for the solution implementation within Cloud ALM. So currently, the best processes in Signavio and Cloud ALM are not technically integrated, but process-wise, they are. So once we move into the design, we are designing our best practice processes. We need to sync the content for the application landscape, the capability view. And within Cloud ALM, we're collecting the requirements for the to-be solution, which will be then approved through the project scope and project synchronization to plan and build the technology roadmap. In Signavio, within the collaboration hub and the process manager, you approve the to-be processes with your business, and we use Cloud ALM to build, document, test, and deploy those solutions. LeanIX and Signavio, we deploy the processes, monitor conformance, and we execute and document transformation. Enablement happens through user enablement on transform processes, linking into Enable Now, right? So to provide your business users with training material. Enablement on the transform landscape and user enablement on the transform solutions. And then run, we monitor through Signavio from a business perspective using process insights and process intelligence, and get targeted recommendations and instructions for improvement of that based on benchmarking versus our best practice expectation. LeanIX monitor the application landscape for improvement potential, and Cloud ALM to monitor the application process landscape for business continuity. So more technical view of business monitoring. So we talk a lot about Cloud ALM. However, there is still a context where a solution manager may be required as well, right? So this needs to be discussed too. So in the context of S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, so S/4HANA Cloud, the SaaS version, Cloud ALM for everything. But for an ALM solution in the Private Edition, depending on the context of your customer and the complexity of the transformation that's happening, it may be Solution Manager with Focus Build or Cloud ALM, depending on the context. So in the operation space, Cloud ALM is the go-to solution, but if you have more complex monitoring needs, then we recommend also to utilize Focus Run, typically in the context of service providers or customers with extremely huge landscapes. So what does it look like if we have Solution Manager in the landscape? So effectively, these areas that were previously covered by Cloud ALM in the first, they're now covered by Solution Manager. And this is based on maturity of the solution and availability of capabilities in the solution. So one thing that's a little bit different here is we have a connector available for the best practice processes, or for linking between Signavio Process Manager and Solution Manager to ensure that there's a consistent process view from process design to process implementation. So this bidirectional interface exists. And what does that look like in terms of accelerating digital rollouts? So again, I haven't covered every single possibility and capability in here. It's kind of to give a general overview of what it would look like. So at the beginning, right, we use LeanIX and we have our reference catalogs and capabilities. We utilize process insights, again, like I mentioned before, to look at the as-is landscape. You use tools and methodologies like plug and gain to perform a process discovery. This information feeds and links to the process manager within Signavio. Again, you can build the customer journey and customer model using the journey modeler, but the processes then are synchronized with Solution Manager using the business process model connector for SAP Signavio solutions. And the process is the core of everything in the implementation. So the processes are directly linked to the requirements which you gather in the fit standard workshops. Once we have our requirements gathered, then we prioritize them and assign them to work packages and work items, which are assigned to particular releases and managed through the project management capability within Focus Build. Of course, these work packages, as they're released and as they're developed and as you continue, they're tested using, and testing is managed, whether if it's manual testing through Solution Manager, and it's Solution Manager also manages the automated tests that may be created and executed as well. Important to discuss here as well is the link between the training content and the processes. So again, as you continue, the process design will change from a, say, overall perspective, which may lead to changes required in Signavio. So Signavio is the leading process modeling tool, or the technical design or technical aspects might change. So maybe fields change or something like this, or UIs change, which again leads to a need for updating the training material, utilizing Enable Now. So this is why it's important to link that content to the processes themselves, because that ensures that you'll have continuous updates of it. It's also important to ensure that documentation expects that there's a minimum documentation of the business processes to run and how they run, the technical configuration that's behind them. And then we utilize in the background BTP for extensions, so Cloud TMS, the CI/CD service in BTP, and the BTP application development integration tools. And as we move on to the run, we can utilize process insights and process intelligence to give us insights into how our business processes are run. We also use Cloud ALM for operations, so the health, the user, performance integration, acceptance, business process, job and automation monitoring to have a good view on how the processes are running and how effective the health of your system is. And it's supported in SAP for me with all of the tools you're aware of already in SAP for me, but also we've embedded this clean core dashboard. So currently the clean core dashboard covers primarily custom code aspects, but will be extended with data and further KPIs as time goes on. So 2 minutes just to talk about clean core operations and SAP Activate. So with the Activate methodology for the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, there are several areas that are relevant for clean core operations. So what I've done here is I've highlighted some of the areas that are the key areas that are relevant for our operations dimension. There are other aspects within other topic areas as well, but these are kind of the core ones. So as you can see here, right, project management, solution adoption, operations and support testing are some of the core work streams that are relevant. There are elements in technical architecture, there's elements in customer team enablement that are relevant as well, but they're not as closely aligned as the others. And the tags, so the clean core success plan. So we have this to filter out relevant content and approaches, and customer COE. These are kind of the core areas. Of course, the Rise with SAP adoption framework is also important, but again, kind of trying to select the most relevant aspects. And with that, kind of want to thank you for your time and just recap it a little bit on clean core. So it means that you're up to date, you're documented, you're unmodified, you're consistent, efficient, and cloud compliant. So if you remember nothing else from this session, hopefully you remember that. And Chiao, I'll hand over to you for this next part.
So thank you, Morris. So here I would like to show you some of the webinars we've done before. So you can see that we have at the right-hand side a dedicated landing page for all partners. And this is especially for the Rise with SAP methodology. And there you can find all the recordings for our previous sessions. Namely, we have the clean core principles, integration, data extensibility, and also one session regarding how you can leverage Cloud ALM to run these clean core projects. And we also have the process as well as the today's session operation. Yeah. So if you go to the dedicated landing page, you can find all these resources to make yourself familiar with the Rise with SAP methodology. And I would attach the link after the slide. Next slide, please. So here I would like to remind you regarding this update on competency framework, if you are not aware of this. So from the 1st of June, we will have some new requirements for these platform expert. So for each of the different levels, let's say essential, advanced, and experts, the requirement, the bar for the platform experts has been raised. Yeah. And as a partner, so you have until the end of August, some time to meet the requirements. And there we've listed the 3 different certifications. So namely the backend developer for SAP Cloud Application Programming, ABAP Cloud, and also integration developer. So be sure to have a look on this because after the end of August, your competence level will be impacted if you don't meet the requirements over there. Yeah. And for more information, as you can see, we have some links available at the bottom of this slide. So be sure to have a look at that. And with that, we come to the end of this session. Until now, I don't see any questions. So at the same time, we'll stop the recording.